Oh, I hear some guests.
Yes, we're live.
Welcome everyone. Happy Sunday. It is June 15, 2025. We welcome all of you for this series that we're going to begin starting today. Introduction for Kings and Prophets. The Kings and Prophets series is a new 8-week summer program that will explore the Hebrew prophets and their work within the dispensation of Moses. This series follows the Pentateuch, which was presented last fall and winter. The canonical prophets, those with their own books, each provided messages and prophecies that are still relevant today. We welcome Miss Eileen Maddox. She has been a frequent flyer here on Clearwater Baha'is. You're more than welcome to see a lot of her other videos, such as the ones we spoke about in the previous seasons. They are really, really, really important if you are considering the subject we're going to continue on, the idea of the Old Testament, its importance, the relevance to today. There's a lot you can find in the fertile ground in the Bible itself and the Baha'i writings. Eileen Maddox is an independent researcher and writer from Vermont who describes herself as a curious student. She has authored 4 books: 1844, Convergence in Prophecy for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and the Baha'i Faith, and The Coming of the Glory, How the Hebrew Scriptures Reveal the Plan of God, a trilogy that offers a Baha'i perspective on the Hebrew Bible and its prophecies chronologically within Israelite society. That's history within Israelite history. Sorry about that. Just wanted to clarify. I didn't mean society. Maddox emphasizes the importance of knowing the Old and the New Testaments as the Word of God, a principle she adopted from Abdul Baha's admonition. She is also a regular presenter on Clearwater Baha'is, as I've just mentioned prior, and she maintains also a Substack and an email list for updates on her projects. So if you want to join her email mailing list, that's definitely something to consider checking out her Substack. Jeremiah, I hope you put that little link in the comments so people can find her Substack and join her email mailing list. With that being said, if you can't find it, you're more than welcome to go to clearwaterbaha'is.org and just simply click on the Contact Us button. It's depending on your view, should be on the top, or if you'll have a hamburger menu, 3 horizontal lines, you click on it, it'll expand to the menu that would give us that Contact Us button. And then you can fill in your information and we can reach out to you. With that being said, we welcome Eileen. Thank you for being here again, Eileen. We're so happy that you're here to do the series and, of course, sharing with everyone that's joining us on Zoom. We welcome you on Facebook, on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, John, for that marvelous introduction. So now let me pull it up on the screen share. And there it is. And I trust that everybody can see it. Yes.
Working great.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed. Kings and Prophets, session number 1. Joshua, Judges, Samuel, King Saul, King David, and Nathan. Hello and welcome back. As John explained, this series follows the Pentateuch series that was shown last fall and winter. And here's what we will be doing and not doing in this series. I will focus on the prophetic narratives found in the Hebrew Bible because they can be useful in teaching the faith and because they are relevant to us today. What I will not be doing is covering all the books and major events in the Hebrew Bible. We would be here until Christmas 3 years ahead if I tried to do that, so I won't. The kings and the prophets of Israelite history were intertwined with each other. The Hebrew prophets, both the early prophets and the canonical prophets, persistently reminded the kings, priests, and the people of their responsibilities to God and the dire results of disobedience. I will move through the earlier material quickly so that we can get into the more historical material and also into the prophecies from a Baha'i perspective. Here's a list of the major and minor prophets who each had a book. Depending on how you count them, which we'll get into later, there were between 15 and 20 major and minor prophets. There were also in the earlier days unnamed prophets called men of God who played important roles, and named prophets such as Nathan and Micaiah. Let's look at the land of Canaan because it is central to Israelite history. The land had been promised to Abraham and his descendants by God. Joshua, who succeeded Moses as the leader, oversaw the division of the land between the 12 tribes, who were descendants of the 12 tribes of Jacob. The Levites were given towns with grazing lands in various places rather than their own territory. Ancient Israel's borders were the Mediterranean Sea to the west and some independent countries to the east, and up into today's Syria to the north and down to Egypt in the south. The tribes lived as a loose confederation. And here you can see where Hebron is, where Jerusalem is, and this is Judah, which was the largest of the tribes and the tribal areas. And on the right is a topographical map that shows the dark green areas as the flattest, with the pale green, yellow, light brown, and darker brown successively gaining altitude until 3,000-foot altitudes are reached in the Central Valley, and 4,000 altitudes are reached in the Upper Galilee area. The black line is the River Jordan. Its headwaters were up here. It went to the Sea of Galilee and down into the Dead Sea. The tan covered areas on both sides of the Jordan indicate below sea level. The Sea of Galilee is about 700 feet below sea level. It is the lowest freshwater lake in the world. The Dead Sea is about 1,380 feet below sea level, the lowest level salt lake in the world. And today the Dead Sea is dying towards its death because its tributaries are being used to support settlements and agriculture. The colors also show or relate to the amount of rainfall from reasonably adequate in the green areas to decreasing from there on. And the terrain was fragmented by hills and ravines, which made it easy for the young David to hide from Saul. The summer months were hot and dry, with rains only from November through March. If the rains were inadequate, drought and famine would follow. And this is a very large map to simply show you how small Canaan actually was in the scheme of things. And you see Egypt down here, the Hatti Empire, the Mitanni Empire, the Mesopotamian empires. And Tyre here is in modern day Syria. Psalm 45, the wedding psalm. I usually follow the chronological order of topics, and maybe this psalm is in chronological order because it has been traditionally attributed to the sons of Korah, who are mentioned once in the book of Numbers. However, it's more likely that it was written much later, possibly by David or by an unknown psalmist. It's often called the wedding psalm, but it wasn't until the 19th century that it became apparent that its imagery offers a prophetic look at Baha'u'llah and his bride, Asih Hanu. It's 17 verses long. Let's read it together. My heart is stirred by a noble theme as I recite my verses for the king. My tongue is the pen of a skillful writer. You are the most excellent of men, and your lips have been anointed with grace, since God has blessed you forever. Gird your sword on your side, you mighty one. Clothe yourself with majesty and splendor. In your majesty, ride forth victoriously in the cause of truth, humility, and justice. Let your right hand achieve awesome deeds. Let your sharp arrows pierce the hearts of the king's enemies. Let the nations fall beneath your feet. Who was the king? Baha'u'llah. One of his titles is the King of Kings. About the sword, Baha'u'llah wrote, say, the sword of wisdom is hotter than summer heat and sharper than blades of steel, if ye do but understand. After unity, justice is probably the foremost of Baha'u'llah's teachings. One of Baha'u'llah's best-known hidden words states, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Verily, justice is my gift to thee and the sign of my loving kindness. Set it then before thine eyes. And the sharp arrows. Usually, arrows are used as symbols for afflictions and torment, such as the flings and arrows of outrageous fortune from Shakespeare. However, Ishmael, the son of Abraham, became an archer, and his arrows were a metaphor for the spiritual truth he taught the people in the Arabian Peninsula. Baha'u'llah put sharp arrows into the outmoded religious thinking of his day. In time, all nations will embrace Baha'u'llah. Now, let's go back to the second half of the psalm. Your throne will last forever and ever. A scepter of justice will be the scepter of your kingdom. You love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has set you above your companions by anointing you with the oil of joy. All your robes are fragrant with myrrh, aloes, and cassia. From palaces adorned with ivory, the music of the strings makes you glad. Daughters of kings are among your honored women. At your right hand, the royal bride in gold of Ophir. The Baha'i dispensation is to last 500,000 years, which is pretty close to forever and ever. And justice is a foremost teaching. The fragrant robes and palaces adorned with ivory refer to the wealth that Baha'u'llah was raised in. The royal bride will be Asih Hanu. Listen, daughter, and pay attention. Forget your people and your father's house. Let the king be enthralled by your beauty. Honor him, for he is your Lord. The city of Tyre will come with a gift. People of wealth will seek your favor. All glorious is the princess within her chamber. Her gown is interwoven with gold. In embroidered garments, she is led to the king. Her virgin companions follow her, those brought to be with her. Asiye Khanum was the daughter of a court vizier and nobleman of immense wealth. She received such a trove of wedding gifts that it took 40 mules to carry them to her husband's home. Her wardrobe was rich because of the stunning wealth of her family, and she must have resembled the princess within her chamber with her wedding dress with woven gold. The buttons of her garments were gold inset with precious stones. Led in joy and with gladness, they enter the palace of the king. Your sons will take the place of your fathers. You will make them princes throughout the land. I will perpetuate your memory through all generations. Therefore, the nations will praise you forever and ever. 2 sons survived to adulthood, Abdu'l-Baha and Mirza Mikdi. Abdu'l-Baha was designated the center of his father's covenant, and Mirza Mikdi sacrificed his life at a young age so that people could have access to his father, who was strictly imprisoned in Akka. Abdu'l-Baha and Mirza Mikdi were the sons of a spiritual king and were princes in the highest understanding of that word. The books of Joshua and Judges. The series on the Pentateuch ended with the passing of Moses and the Israelites under the leadership of Joshua poised to cross the Jordan River into the Promised Land. Summarized, God ordered Joshua and the Israelites to conquer the cities in Canaan and slaughter all the men, women, and children. Unable to believe that God would order genocide of men, women, children, and even their animals, I proceeded with the peaceful settlement of the Hebrews that is supported by archaeology. Also, because this series of presentations is primarily about the Hebrew prophets, I will gloss over material that does not contribute to understanding the mission of the Hebrew prophets. Now, these next 4 slides are repeats from the Pentateuch series. The renowned archaeologist William Dever wrote, "We must confront the fact that the external material evidence supports almost nothing of the biblical account of a large-scale concerted Israelite invasion of Canaan. Of the more than 40 sites the biblical text claim were conquered, no more than 2 or 3 of those that have been archaeologically investigated are even potential candidates for such an Israelite destruction. Extensive archaeological surveys have been done of the early hillside settlements. The renowned Israeli archaeologist Israel Finkelstein and Neil Asher Silverman wrote, "These studies revolutionized the study of early Israel. The discovery of the remains of a dense network of highland villages, all apparently established within a span of a few generations, indicated that a dramatic social transformation had taken place in the central hill country of Canaan. There was no sign of violent invasion, far from the Canaanite that were in the process of collapse and disintegration. About 250 hilltop communities suddenly sprang up. They also noted a population explosion far surpassing the birth rate, thus suggesting an influx of peaceful immigrants." Back to Dever. The discovery of the remains of a dense network of highland villages, all apparently established within a span of a few generations, indicated that a dramatic social transformation had taken place in the central hill country of Canaan. And back to Finkelstein and Asher. The process that we describe here is, in fact, the opposite of what we have in the Bible. The emergence of early Israel was an outcome of the collapse of the Canaanite culture, not its cause. And most of the Israelites did not come from outside Canaan. They emerged from within it. There was no mass exodus from Egypt. There was no violent conquest of Canaan. Most of the people who formed early Israel were local people. The Israelites themselves, irony of ironies, were originally Canaanites. Yes, archaeology does upend some of the earlier biblical stories, but archaeology in no way diminishes the mission of Moses and the guidance of the Hebrews for hundreds of years. And yes, an exodus from Egypt did happen, but it was much smaller than it has been recorded to be. So why were the supposed battles of Joshua reported as they were? Probably because the book of Joshua was not written down for several centuries. Therefore, quote unquote, fictive history was the result. This would have been the springtime of the Mosaic dispensation. And in my opinion, the Hebrews set about the task of conquering the hearts and minds of the Canaanites by sharing the Mosaic dispensation with them. But oh, that's not as exciting as battles and conquests. The spiritual springtime. The divine springtime of each revelation quickens new spiritual life in each being, and the Mosaic dispensation was no exception. Knowingly or not, the ancient Israelites entered Canaan as missionaries, or we would call them pioneers, and spread their beliefs and faith to receptive populations. The most probable prospects for this new faith would have been their Hebrew cousins, many times removed, who had not gone to Egypt centuries earlier with Joseph's clan. Perhaps some memories of Abraham and his teachings remained with these distant kin. And since the Canaanite gods had done nothing to protect the Canaanites from the 12th century turmoil, the fall of empires and trade routes, and the invasion of the sea peoples, the Canaanites would also have been a receptive population. The book of Moses is full of battle scenes, which I am skipping. Joshua also oversaw the designation of 6 cities of refuge. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Tell the Israelites to designate the cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that anyone who kills a person accidentally and unintentionally may flee there and find protection from the avenger of blood." And note how evenly distributed throughout the land these cities of refuge were. They're shown in the red dots. In time, Joshua grew old and knew that his death was approaching. He counseled the people, "Now I am about to go the way of all the earth. You know with all your heart and soul that not one of all the good promises the Lord gave you has failed. Every promise has been fulfilled. Not one has failed. But just as all the good things the Lord your God has promised you have come to you, so he will bring on you all the evil things he has threatened, until the Lord your God has destroyed you from this good land he has given you. If you violate the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and go and serve other gods and bow down to them, the Lord's anger will burn against you, and you will quickly perish from the good land he has given you." But Joshua is also famous for saying, "If serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you were living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. After Joshua, the leaders called judges took over. The 15 judges were the bridge between Joshua and Samuel. The judges were military leaders who defended the tribes from foreign aggression. They also settled disputes. And one judge, Deborah, was also a prophet. The book of Judges states that they were appointed by God. The generation of Joshua died out, and the next generation who forgot the Lord was serving the Baals and the Ashtoreths. Short memories. In his anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of raiders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hands of these raiders. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to ways even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices. Divine punishment ensued as the Israelites would then be defeated by the Moabites or another people. There would be recurring cycles of obedience and then disobedience, defeat, and repentance. And this is what the cycle looks like. The people would fall into sin and idolatry. God was angry. He would allow oppression of the Israelites by their enemies. The people would cry out in repentance. And then there would be salvation through the next chosen judge and peace in the land. And then the judge would die over and over. A woman named Deborah was the fourth judge. She handled disputes. She was a prophet. She was a military leader, and she was also a songwriter. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. Ephraim means actually the Israelites. And the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. The Israelites had done evil since the previous judge died. So they had been subjugated for 20 years by the Canaanite king of Hazor, whose army commander was Sisera. One day, Deborah sent for her army commander, Barak, and shared with him instructions she had received from the Lord. The God of Israel commands you, go and take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, those were two of the tribes, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River and give you into his hands. The Kishon River runs just outside of Haifa, Israel, in the north. Barak said to me, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. Certainly I will go with you, said Deborah. But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Barak put together his army, and he and Deborah went to Mount Tabor. Then Deborah said to Barak, "Go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you?" So Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. Sisera arrived exhausted at the tent of Heber, a Kenite, and Eli, but only his wife Jael was there. So he fell asleep. Jael took a tent peg and hammer to his head all the way to the ground, killing him. Just then Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." On that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. A whole chapter is devoted to the Song of Deborah, celebrating her victory. Interestingly, there is one verse of this song. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anat, in the days of Jael, the highways were abandoned. Travelers took to winding paths. This sentence is verification of the chaos of those times. There was no central authority to provide security, and the highways were no longer safe. The land of Canaan was still reeling from the collapse of the late Bronze Age empires and the trade routes, which we went over in the Pentateuch series. The downward moral spiral is evident with Gideon, a judge. The people had done evil and were subsequently subjugated and impoverished by the Midianites for 7 years. Long story short, Israel's cried out to the Lord, who sent an angel to Gideon and told him, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon defeated the Midianites. At night, his army surrounded the Midianite camp. Grasping the torches in their left hands and holding in their right hands the trumpets they were to blow, the soldiers shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." The Midianites fled west across the Jordan. Okay. This was basically the scene of the battle. Here's the Jordan River, and this is where the Gideonites fled to. Gideon had serious altercations with the Ephraimites here, who for some unknown reason were antagonistic to him. Then Gideon's moral clarity lapsed. He melted down the plundered gold and made a gold ephod. Oh, he defeated the enemy, of course. An ephod was the upper garment decorated with jewels that was worn by the high priest, in which he kept the Urim and Thummim. It is written that all Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping this golden ephod, and it became a snare to Gideon and his family. This was not good, and the downward moral cycle continued. The next judge, Jephthah, had the task of defeating the Ammonites. He prayed to the Lord, "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me, when I return in triumph from the Ammonites, will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Jephthah defeated the Ammonites, but when he returned home, who should come out first to meet him but his daughter, his only child? Grief-stricken, Jephthah told his daughter of his vow that he could not break. She agreed and only asked for 2 months to roam the hills with her friends and grieve that she would never marry. After 2 months, her father fulfilled his oath to the Lord. Through Moses, God had prohibited child sacrifice and human sacrifice. Jephthah didn't have the moral clarity to obey this higher law. And lastly, the last judge was Samson, and I'm not going to go into him. You all know his story, I'm sure. His extraordinary strength, how Delilah destroyed the strength by cutting his hair, and how Samson was then captured by the Philistines, but managed to bring down their temple on them. He had been dedicated by his parents to be a Nazarite, not Nazarite, Nazirite, a person dedicated completely to God. As a Nazarite, he was to drink no alcohol, never touch a dead body, and never cut his hair. Samson's many exploits suggest that he was feared, violent, cunning, and brazen, prone to fits of vengeance and lustful passion that violated his Nazarite vows. As a judge, he was supposed to free the Israelites from the Philistines. Instead, he fell in love with 2 Philistine women. Samson had led the people for 20 years, but there is no mention of him raising an army against the Philistines. It's important to remember that the books of Joshua and Judges were oral traditions and were not written down for several centuries. Traditional memories can take on mythic proportions. However, the last verse of the book of Judges is quite telling. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. A transitional figure between the age of the judges and the age of the kings would now appear. He was attuned with the Lord and was revealed by all Israel. He was Samuel. Military leader, priest, and prophet. The Israelites were faced with major moral, religious, and social crises, but Samuel would change the course of Hebrew history. He lived from approximately 1090 to 1030 BC. Born into the tribe of Levi, he became the first in a line of named prophets that lasted until Malachi. He would anoint both Saul and David as kings. He came to be regarded as the most prominent figure since Moses. Samuel was born to Hannah, who had long been barren, and she dedicated him before birth to be a Nazarite, a man dedicated to God. When Samuel was very young, his mother took him to the high priest Eli to be raised in service to the Lord at the temple in Shiloh. I praised for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. For his whole life, he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. Hannah returned home to Ramah and subsequently had 5 more children with her husband Elkanah, and she visited Samuel once a year. Young Samuel grew in stature and favor with the Lord, but Eli had serious family problems. His 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were serving as priests and would succeed him, but they were scoundrels and thieves. Eli admonished them, but they did not change their ways. Then a man of God came to Eli and told him what the Lord said. I chose your ancestors out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar, to burn incense, and to wear an ephod in my presence. Why do you honor your sons more than me by fattening yourselves on the choice parts of every offering made by my people Israel? The term man of God, instead of a name, is used several times for a prophet in earlier times, especially when he appears only once. This man of God also told Eli that the Lord had told him to tell Eli that he had promised that members of Eli's family would minister before God forever. But now the Lord declared that only those who honored him would be honored, and those who despised him would be disdained. The strength of Eli's priestly house would be cut. And Eli was given this message again, but this time through Samuel. All your descendants will die in the prime of life. And what happens to your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, will be a sign to you. They will both die on the same day. I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who will do according to what is in my heart and mind. I will firmly establish his priestly house, and they will minister before my anointed one always. One night, Samuel heard a voice calling his name. So he ran to Eli to tell him that he was here. But Eli hadn't called him and sent Samuel back to bed. This happened a second time and a third time. And Eli realized it was the Lord calling Samuel. Go back to bed. And when the Lord calls, answer, speak, for your Lord is listening. And the Lord said to Samuel, see, I'm about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. At that time, I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family, from beginning to end. For I told him that I would judge his family forever, because the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God, and he failed to restrain them. Therefore, I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering. In the morning, at Eli's insistence, Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing. And Eli said, he is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his eyes. The Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan, which is in the extreme north, to Beersheba, which is in the extreme southwest, recognized that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his words. And Samuel's words came to all Israel. And the Ark of the Covenant was kept in a tent at Shiloh. The Philistines were frequent enemies, and 3 battles ensued. The Israelites lost the first battle, and Israelites foolishly took the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh to the second battle. And Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant. This constituted imitating the pagan tradition of carrying images of idols into battle. But the Ark of the Covenant was holy. It was meant to be attended to by righteous men, not traipsed through a battlefield and waved about as a weapon. The Israelites lost the second battle, and they also lost the Ark to the Philistines. In addition, Eli's 2 sons were killed. A man brought the news to Eli at Shiloh. When he mentioned the Ark of God, Eli fell backwards off his chair by the side of the gate. His neck was broken, and he died. For he was an old man, and he was heavy. He had led Israel 40 years. The Philistines took the Ark of the Covenant to Dagon's temple at Ashdod, but God wrought plagues and devastation. They moved the Ark to Gath, but that didn't improve matters. Then they took the Ark to Ekron, but the people there cried out that they would be killed. So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and said, "Send the Ark of the God of Israel away. Let it go back to its own place, or it will kill us and our people. For death has filled the city with panic." God's hand was heavy on it. The ark was put in an ox-drawn wagon and sent to Shemesh, and from there it was taken to Kiriath Jearim. So Samuel said to all the Israelites, "If you are returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths, and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines." So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashtoreths and served the Lord only. Now, here are two maps. On the left, this is in the central area of Israel. And here was Shiloh. And Ebenezer is where the Israelite troops camped. Aphek was where the Philistines camped. Ashdod, the first place the ark was taken, the Ark of the Covenant. Then over to Gath, then to Ekron. And the Israelites got it at Bet Shemesh, and it was taken to Kiriath Jearim. And here is Jerusalem, but that was not a factor at that time. And then if we follow Shiloh over here, this is the circuit area that Samuel had. He lived in Ramah. He went to Bethel, Gilgal, Mizpah, and here is Bethlehem. And you can see what a small area that was. I don't know why Samuel was referred to as a judge of all Israel and respected by all Israel, since his circuit was so small. Be that as it may, Samuel had far-ranging influence over all the tribes. King Saul. Here we have the transition from the Confederation of Tribes to the Kingdom of Israel that would be remembered in history as the United Kingdom. We are also coming into verifiable history. The backstory is that Samuel had the same problem that the priest Eli had had. That is, two sons who were not fit to succeed him. Samuel appointed them anyway in his old age. So the elders of Israel came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Saul prayed about this request, and the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving no other gods. So they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will claim as his rights." And Samuel warned the people of all the things the king would do, from forced military service to plowing the king's land, to reaping his harvest, from taking a tenth of their grain and animals in taxes to becoming his slaves. "When that day comes, you will cry out for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you in that day." But the people refused to listen to Samuel. "No, we want a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles." When Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. And the Lord answered, "Listen to them and give them a king." And the Lord arranged the circumstances through which Samuel met Saul. A young farmer named Saul, tall and handsome, spent 3 days searching for his father's lost donkeys when he decided to ask the help of the man of God who lived nearby, who happened to be Samuel. The day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed to Samuel, "About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over the people Israel. He will deliver them from the hand of the Philistines. I have looked on my people, for their cry has reached me." Saul found Samuel, who told him that the donkeys had been found. Samuel anointed Saul king with a flask of olive oil. "And to whom is all the desire of Israel turned, if not to you and your whole family line?" Samuel told Saul to go to Gibeah, which meant the hill of God. Samuel gave Saul these instructions: "As you approach the town, you will meet a procession of prophets coming down from the high place with lyres, timbrels, pipes, and harps being played before them, and they will be prophesying. The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be changed into a different person." And so it happened. When he and his servant arrived at Gibeah, a procession of prophets met him. The Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, and he joined in their prophesying. This procession of prophets that Saul encountered is the first mention of the school of the prophets started by Samuel. The school trained Levite men to serve in the priesthood, to serve leaders and kings, to teach the Mosaic laws to the people, and perhaps to interpret dreams and visions. Saul was 30 years old when he became king and ruled from Gibeah. His reign was marked by few of the trappings of royalty. An archaeological study of the ruins of Gibeah revealed that the royal headquarters was a simple, rustic fortress. Saul's reign started well with military victories over the Philistines. Then he erred grievously, and the result was losing his dynastic succession. Here's what happened. When the call went out to attack the Philistines, Samuel told Saul, "Go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. But you must wait 7 days until I come to you and tell you what you are to do." Saul and his army were terrified when they saw the Philistine chariots, charioteers, and soldiers as numerous as the sand on the seashore. When Samuel had not returned on the 7th day, Saul panicked and took the role of a priest and sacrificed a burnt offering and a fellowship offering, preparatory to beseeching God's favor. Then Samuel returned just as Saul completed the sacrifices and pronounced judgment on him. "You have done a foolish thing. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your king over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and anointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command. Not only that, but Saul had violated the strict division between the sacred and the secular. The priesthood had its duties and privileges that were never to be encroached upon by any king or Levite, non-Levite. Despite Saul losing his dynasty, the ensuing battle against the Philistines was won because of the exploits of Saul's son Jonathan. Samuel then died, and all Israel mourned for him, and he was buried in his hometown, Ramah. Perhaps a few years later, trouble came again for Saul. Again, he was going to battle with the Philistines, and he again was terrified. His prayers to the Lord had not been answered by dreams or by prophets. And Saul had expelled the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Even so, Saul defied Moses' law against consulting them and his own expulsion of them. He went in disguise to a medium in Endor. She was not happy because mediumship and spiritism were illegal, but Saul promised to protect her. She brought up the spirit of Samuel, and he was not happy at being disturbed. I am in great distress, Saul said. The Philistines are fighting me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do. Samuel responded, why do you consult me now that the Lord has departed from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done what he predicted through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David. The Lord will deliver both Israel and you into the hands of the Philistines. And tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. And that's what happened. The Israelites were defeated, and Saul was killed along with 3 of his sons, including Jonathan. The finest tribute to Saul is found in the immortal words of David's magnificent eulogy. Here are 2 verses from it. The beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen? How are the mighty fallen, and the weapons of war perished? King David. His story begins in the book of 1 Samuel and continues throughout the book of 2 Samuel and into the book of 1 Kings. David's early years were intertwined with Saul, so we'll learn more about Saul, whose life was that of a tragic hero. David was larger than life and what we now call a Renaissance man, that is, a person with wide interests and expertise in several areas. He was a warrior. He was a psalmist, a singer, and a musician. He was also a prophet. We will touch only lightly on the events of David's life so that we can get to some of his incredibly prophetic psalms. The young shepherd boy David had been anointed by Samuel to succeed Saul. David showed his courage when young, in complete faith, when he went up against Goliath, the giant Philistine warrior with his slingshot, saying, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of the Philistines." David slew Goliath. We might look at the David and Goliath story as a metaphor for the strength and purity of faith against overwhelming odds. David also sang and played his lyre for Saul. Saul was depressed, and he had a lot to be depressed about. His whole reign was spent fighting the Philistines and other enemies. David achieved high rank in Saul's army and won many victories, and the people were chanting, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." One day, Saul couldn't handle his jealousy and tried to kill David, who fled. Saul ordered that David be killed, even though he was captain of his bodyguard. David took to the hills with his men and was Saul's gadfly, but he remained loyal to Saul, not killing him when he found him asleep in a cave. David wrote a psalm about those difficult days when he was on the run. "Have mercy on me, God, have mercy, for in you I have placed my trust. Even in the shadow of your wings will I find my refuge until this calamity passes. I call upon the God Most High, to the God who completes what he began in me. He will send me help from heaven to deliver me from those who harass and despise me. God will send his precious love and truth." There are many anecdotes about Goliath in his time on the run, which lasted until Saul died with his sons, with battling the Philistines, and David took the throne. Once, when David escaped Saul, he went to see Samuel at Ramah. Then they went to Naioth to stay. Word came to Saul, "David is in Naioth at Ramah." So he sent men to capture him. But when the soldiers saw a group of prophets prophesying with Samuel standing there as their leader, the Spirit of God came on Saul's men, and they also prophesied. Saul was told about it, and he sent more men, and they prophesied too. Saul sent men a third time, and they also prophesied. Finally, Saul himself left for Naioth at Ramah. And how did this end? Along the way, the Spirit of God came upon Saul, and he walked along prophesying in Samuel's presence. This is the second mention of the school of the prophets. When David became king, he defeated the Philistines, finally and for good, along with other enemies. He also defeated the Jebusites and took their fortified city of Jerusalem as the seat of his government and power. Jerusalem at that time had a population of 500 to 700 and was 11 or 12 acres large. David brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. Slowly, the centralized systems of monarchical administration evolved. Taxation, diplomatic communications, a standing army, priestly administration, court organization, writing for record keeping, and more. The Israelites now controlled the resurgent international trade routes that ran through their land, and the duties and taxes poured into the royal coffers. David rebuilt much of Jerusalem, and he built himself a palace, which is shown up here, and a series of fortress cities for his army to protect the land. Prophets who have been trained in the school of the prophets served the priests and kings. Nathan, a named prophet with no book, fulfilled the role of an exemplary court prophet. Two incidents during Nathan's tenure illustrate fulfillment of that office at its best. The first concerned David's desire to build a temple. He said to Nathan, "Here I am, living in a house of cedar, while the ark of God remains in a tent." Nathan replied, "Whatever you have in mind, go ahead and do it, for the Lord is with you." But that night, the word of the Lord came to Nathan. First, the Lord said he didn't need a house because he was used to living in a tent. Second, the Lord had cut off all of David's enemies and would make him great, and he would provide a place for his people, Israel, where they could have a home of their own. The third part is very important because its misunderstanding would become the major reason why the people would later disregard the prophet's warnings of defeat by the Assyrians and the Babylonians. Nathan told David what the Lord had said to him. "The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your ancestors, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, your own flesh and blood, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will punish him with a rod wielded by men, with floggings inflicted by human hands. But my love will never be taken away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed from before you. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever." In the years to come, these words would be used to counter the warnings of the Hebrew prophets. If the Davidic throne was to last forever, so why worry? The outer Davidic kingdom did fall several centuries later with the Assyrian conquest, and then again with the Babylonian conquests. However, Jesus was a descendant of David, as was Baha'u'llah, who was descended from both Abraham and Keturah, and from David. The second incident during Nathan's tenure illustrated his bravery when he confronted his king for having Bathsheba's husband, the army officer Uriah, put in the front line of battle, and then the soldiers around him withdrawn so that he would be killed, and then claiming Bathsheba for himself. The Lord sent Nathan to David, who told him the story of the rich man and the poor man, how the rich man had many sheep and the cattle, but the poor man had only one ewe lamb that drank from his cup and slept in his arms. Then the rich man took the poor man's lamb to prepare for a traveler who had come. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, "As surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over, because he did such a thing and had no pity." Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own." This is what the Lord says: "Out of your own household, I am going to bring calamity on you." Then David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." Nathan replied, "The Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die. But because by doing this, you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, the son born to you will die." David grieved mightily, and the baby he had with Bathsheba died. In time, a second child was born to them, whom they named Solomon. The sword never departed from the house of David. In time, the divided kingdom, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, suffered much bloodshed. When David was near death, Nathan attended the anointing of Solomon as king by the priest Zadok. This map shows the furthest known extent of David's kingdom. He controlled the trade routes. The kingdom's population was about 150,000, mostly rural. Jerusalem's population grew to about 1,000. The land was dotted with hundreds of small agricultural settlements. The rural life was called the good life, but the rains could fail and drought and famine come. This pattern produced an extremely close-knit society based on family ties, traditional values, and loyalty to the clan rather than to any external authority. Rural life was marginal and poor and had few resources to fall back on when drought and famine came. Personal security lay with the family and the village. And for better or worse, the intrinsic conservatism of isolated rural life would also have meant resistance to outside ideas and authority. King David's Psalms. There are 150 Psalms in the book of Psalms. And traditionally, David is credited with writing half of them. 3 of them are obviously written by David. We examined one of them, Psalm 45, and now we'll read 2 others of them. Who was David in the Baha'i writings? Abdu'l-Baha wrote, the manifestations of universal prophethood who appeared independently are, for example, Abraham, Moses, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah. But the others who are followers and promoters are like Solomon, David, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. The first psalm we'll read is Psalm 24, which is short, 10 verses. Traditionally, Christians have seen this psalm as a foretelling of Jesus. However, verses 7 through 10 use symbols and titles that specifically relate to Baha'u'llah. Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully, he shall receive the blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be lifted up, ye everlasting doors, and see the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. The earth can represent the dominion of God, and the seas, the outpourings of God's word. A mountain or hill of God may mean where a prophet has trod, or a high point in consciousness from which we connect with the Holy Spirit. The doors and gates refer to the prison city of Akka, where Baha'u'llah, the King of Glory, would come through. The psalm asks, who is this King of Glory? Among the titles of Baha'u'llah are the King of Glory, the Glory of God, the Lord of Hosts, and the Lord of Lords. In Baha'u'llah's tablet to Napoleon III, he introduced himself as the King of Glory. The King of Glory proclaimeth from the tabernacle of majesty and grandeur. Baha'u'llah introduced himself to Pope Pius IX as the Lord of Lords. O Pope, rend the veils asunder. He who is the Lord of Lords is come overshadowed with clouds, and the decree hath been fulfilled by God. Baha'u'llah wrote about his arrival to Akka. Upon our arrival, we were welcomed with banners of light, whereupon the voice of the Spirit cried out, saying, soon will all that dwell on earth be enlisted under these banners. This psalm transcended 28 centuries and tapped into the imprisonment of Baha'u'llah in the most great prison. This stretches credulity until it is remembered that our concept of time is not God's. Divine time combines past, present, and future. 3 of the Hebrew prophets commented on the gates of Akka as follows, and this is from God Passes By. Designated by Hosea as a door of hope, and alluded to by Ezekiel as the gate that looketh towards the east, whereunto the glory of God of Israel came by way of the east, his voice like a noise of many waters. And the second psalm, Psalm 60. David expresses a sense of separation from God that he and his people had been feeling, possibly because of losses in battle. David appeals for restoration of their relationship with God. O God, thou hast cast us off, thou hast scattered us, thou hast been displeased. O turn thyself to us again. Thou hast made the earth tremble, thou hast broken it. Heal the branches thereof, for it shaketh. Thou hast shown thy people hard things. Thou hast made us to drink the wine of astonishment. Thou hast given a banner to thee that fear thee, that it may be displayed because of the truth, that thy beloved may be delivered. Save with thy right hand and hear me. Moab is my washpot. Over Edom I will cast out my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. God hath spoken in his holiness. I will rejoice. I will divide Shechem and mete out the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim also is the strength of mine head. Judah is my lawgiver. And then there is a change of tone and subject. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Wilt not thou, O God, that hast cast us off? And thou, O Lord, which didst not go out with our armies? Give us hope from trouble, for vain is the help of God. Though through God we shall go and do valiantly. For he it is that shall tread down our enemies. Understandably, the traditional interpretation of the strong city was Petra, the capital city of the land of Edom, against whom David was fighting. But the strong city was not Petra. Baha'u'llah wrote, lend an ear unto the song of David. He saith, who will bring me into the strong city? The strong city is Akka, which hath been named the most great prison and which possesseth a fortress and mighty ramparts. And this is a good stopping point for today. Next week, we will start with Solomon and move through the divided kingdom. And we'll look at those incredible prophets, Amos, Hosea, and Micah, relating much of what they said today. Oh my gracious. Okay, let me end the slideshow and get back into the PowerPoint.
Thank you
Stop.
so much. I'm having issues with my video, it seems, huh?
Yes.
Well, it was a pleasure to have you. Unfortunately, the video is not working, but other than that, we look forward to having you once more for our next session. And our next session will be next week on Sunday at 11 a.m. We're so grateful that, again, Eileen, you're able to do this series with us. And first and foremost, to all of you who have joined for this session, we welcome you once more to the next session next week on Sunday, Baha'i Explorations at 11 a.m. We hope you all have a beautiful Sunday and once more a very, very productive week preparing for the next session. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.